So hey guys, this is Rahul here, and today we are going to witness how to do the connection of the front end to the Solidity code, and we are going to use Wagmi for this, and we will also use Rainbow Kit. So Rainbow Kit is nothing but just this button. Once you click on this button, everything starts on itself. So what you are going to do is I'll link you a video in the I button. I have made a video on Rainbow Kit. It is super easy. Like that is the best way to connect the app, like the MetaMask, basically the MetaMask to your app or DApp. And just go to the video and watch it, and then you come back and you'll have this connect button there itself. Okay, so I'll just start the video here, and once you click on connect button, the Rainbow Kit is going to start, and you all you need to do is click on the MetaMask and it will show you a pop-up. So once you have connected to this website, now you'll see like different, I have switched to Polygon Mumbai. So if you go to the Rainbow Kit app, which I have shown, just mention Polygon Mumbai, or inside the app folder you need to paste Polygon Mumbai in these two places. Watch. So the website works like this. All you need to do is enter the number. So we'll go with the number 4, let's say. So let's go with the number 4, and I'm going to click on changing this number. So I click this and a MetaMask will pop up, and it will ask me that do you want to change this number on the blockchain. So all you need to do is click on confirm, and as soon as it is confirmed, now the transaction is processing. So if you see, the transaction is processing and now it's completed. So as soon as the transaction is confirmed, then the transaction will happen. So let's take another number 40 and let's change the number. So as soon as I click on change number, what is going to happen is it is going to pop up a MetaMask, and we are going to confirm the transaction that yes, please make change to the blockchain. So as soon as I click on confirm, it will write to the blockchain and we'll get the answer once it is confirmed on the blockchain that yes, I want to change this number to 40. So it will display here itself. Okay, so you see, you're going to go to Google, just write remix, okay, and search for remix, and once you search for remix, just click on this remixproject.org. So this is the Ethereum ID, not this one. Just go and click on this, and from here once you scroll down, you'll get this ID online. So once you go here, you'll find the place to code the Solidity, and I don't want to use the hard hat because I think I want to keep the tutorial as beginner free as possible. So once this app is loaded, so what will happen here is you can just create a new file from here, and you can name it whatever you want, something .sol, whatever you want to write, and you can use this. So I have already created this file called get data, and let's just see this. It's a very small code, 20 lines of code, and we have this license, which you mention or not doesn't matter, it just gives you a warning. This is the version which we are using, and this is the name of our contract. We are going to deploy Solidity, and it has only two functions. You see, there are two functions. What this is doing is we have initialized a number which is a uint, like we have let in JavaScript, or const and var. There are different variables. We are using uint here, which means like the positive integer, and we are just having this as number. So the number's default value will be 0, and what this function is doing is it is going to get this number. What's the number? It is only going to get this. It is going to return this number, exactly whatever this is. Okay, and it's a view function, which means it is going to see, it is not going to make any changes to the blockchain or to the data on the blockchain. And what this is the other function. What this is doing, it is going to take a new input inside this arguments. We are going to take a new input, which is a new number, and we are going to pass everything to the left. And what is the left? Left is the number. So we are going to pass everything in this and return this new number. So what this change number is going to do is it is going to take a new number. It is going to put the value of the new number inside the number which we initially had. This is another thing, and this is the different thing. So we are going to take the input and we are going to put this input inside the one which we have, like the previous number. So it is going to therefore change the state of this. State means basically whatever this had previous value, it is going to change its previous value. So we have two functions. One is for getting this number, whatever it is at that point of time, and this is going to change whatever input we have. It is going to take that input and put it inside the number variable. So this is what we are going to do. And you can either auto compile here, or you can directly just click here and compile. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to deploy. So I come here. How will I deploy? I'll first connect this to MetaMask. Okay, I'll connect this website to MetaMask. For that you need to go to the injected provider MetaMask. Okay, so once you have connected to this website, and what is going to happen is, it is going to ask, and just do next and connect and all those things. And once you're connected here, what you need to do is, you need to deploy this contract. Okay, once you are connected to the injected provider, you come here, you click on deploy. This is our code. Okay, I explained the code, and let's just deploy this. And once we click on deploy, it is again going to ask us, asking us is basically write. So we are writing to the blockchain. Okay, that this function just asks, and we'll wait for the confirmation. Okay, and we'll come and see, if you see this, it got a blue tick, means it is already deployed, and it says confirmed transaction. So it is deployed, and we get this function, right? So now that you see these two functions, one is the get number, which is this function, and one is the change number, which is this. So whenever we are getting something from the blockchain, we are not making any changes to the blockchain. It also says here, it is view, it is only viewing what is on the blockchain, but it is not going to make any changes. So anything which is view and it's not making any changes gets the blue button, and wherever you are making some kind of change to the original thing, to the original value or the variable, it is going to give you an orange one. So the default is basically the number 0. So once I click on get number, initially there is no value assigned to it. I could have said like equal to 0, something like that, then it would have given like 0 or whatever. But without assigning any variable, you'll get 0. Assigning any value, you'll get 0. And what we are going to do is, we are going to change the number. So let's take this number as 4. So let me just change this number, and when I click on this, it will ask me that, are you trying to make the changes to the blockchain? Okay, so I'm going to confirm, yes, I want to make this number from, I'm going to take this number from 4 and I'm going to put it inside 1. So I click on confirm, and it is now in the state of process. See, the transaction is not confirmed. You do not see anything here. Now it is confirmed. So it is taking a time to process, and I'll get this number, and this number is 4 right now. So let's say, let's take an example of the number 40, or let's take an example of the number 100. Let's say 100. Okay, so get number, I'll do 4. Once I click on change number, and I'm going to click on this write function, and write is basically, it is telling the blockchain to make the changes. So once I click on this and click the get number, it is not going to show me 100 because it is taking some time to process. So it is not processed right now. So now that it is processed, and now I get the number, so it will show me the number 100. So this is our Solidity code, and I think I'll go to the next part of this video, and this is all the Solidity code there is to it, and you can get all the value of this code from here. This is the contract. You can copy this, and you can, this is our contract. Okay, this is the deployed contract. You can copy this contract, and since we have used the Polygon, okay, for this, so we need to go to Polygon scan for this. So we'll go to Polygon scan for this, and this is the testnet Polygon. Okay, I'm not on the mainnet, so I'll use the testnet Polygon Matic for this, and I'm going to paste this. So what is this? This is the contract, whatever we deployed. This is deployed, and we go to this, and we'll just paste this number here. Okay, and once we click on enter, you'll get the transaction. Okay, you'll get this contract we have deployed here. Okay, Remix is connected to this. So once you deploy here, you'll get the data, and see, this is the contract which we wrote inside just now. See, on the right side you see this code, right? All this code is here. Once you go to this, once you click on the address, like you pasted this address here or wherever it is, it'll show you this. It'll usually throw you at transactions. You just need to go to contract. Then you have two options, either read from contract or write from contract. So we have two functions, right? One is only reading, okay, and another function is basically writing to the contract. So using these two functions, we are going to go ahead in the video, and this is the change number, because write means it is making some changes, and read is it is not making any changes, it will just get you the number. So you remember we had 100 over this, so it has made changes to this, okay, to the blockchain. So we have this get number and change number. Get number is a view, which means view means read contract, it can only read from the contract or from the blockchain. And the write one, which is the change, you're making a change. Writing means you're making or asking for a change. So this is the write contract. So once you click on this, you'll see if you want to change the number, you'll click here and you can enter the number. You need to connect to MetaMask, but we'll just operate not from here, we'll operate from the front end, because we want our front end guy to enter this number, not we don't have to come to contract again and again. And that's what we are chain, right? So one is we can read from the blockchain, so we can read the data. One is we can write the data, which means writing is simply making changes on the blockchain, making changes, okay, making changes on the blockchain. And the rest, second is waiting for the data to happen, so waiting for the transaction to happen. So read means from any block. So this is, let's say, block number 1, this is block number 2, this is block number 3. I can read data from there because they have been formed, okay. So now for reading, I can read from any data, right? I can read from any of the blocks. For writing, I cannot make changes to this block which is already there. I think I'll have to go to the next block somewhere around here, okay. There will be a fourth block here somewhere around here. And I have to, now what happens is when I write or make changes, I think that the second block, like the fourth block, which is supposed to be here, this fourth block is going to have a transaction, like different when I write to a blockchain. So for making changes to the contract, I think those transactions will come inside new blocks. So any changes you make to the blockchain, because previous data is already stored as it is, you have so one is read, the next one is write, and we are making changes to the, you know, maybe the fourth block or something, the next block which is going to be mined. And next is the waiting, okay, we wait for our transactions to go through. So that's why there is a property in which is watch is true. Basically, whenever a new block is mined and your transaction goes to that block, the new transaction happens, I think that transaction is going to take place in a separate block, right? So in the next block, what will happen is this transaction will in the next block the transaction will go through. And the read contract watch true is like it waits for that function in the new block. So every time the block refreshes, every time the block refreshes, it is going to go to that block and fetch the read data of our contract. So these are the three things which we are doing: reading, writing, and we are waiting. So these are the three different functions which we are going to check. We are going to need in order to interact, okay. We need to read the data, we need to write means basically making changes to the data. And next is we need to wait, because we have made changes, now we want our new data to come back. So we use this watch equal to true. I have given this in very last part of this video, this watch equal to true. So that's what it is, and see you guys. What are objects? So objects are basically constants, like for example here it's car. So what are objects is objects are going to be something like, as soon as we give a left side of this semicolon, left side of this semicolon to the name of this whole thing, okay, so it will give us the right side value in order to access it, okay. So for example, let's say we say car, this whole thing is car, this whole thing is objects basically, okay. So what is going to happen is for example, I want to access the value of Honda, okay. So in order to access the value of Honda, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write car dot make. So car dot make will automatically give me the value of Honda, and car dot model will be, so basically what we are doing is we are fetching different values of different things And this is like a key and value pair. This is the key, this is the key, left side is the key, and right side is the value. To in order to access the right side, which is the value, I am going to just give this key. Make is the key and model is the key. So car dot make give us Honda, and car dot model give us the Accord. So this is like this is the like the very basics of objects, how objects operate on. So what is rendering? Rendering means the whole website is going to load. So a render is like something like the whole website is loading if there is made any changes to it. So rendering has use state. One is the use state and other is the use effect for this, for the same. So other is the use effect for the same. Okay, these are the two hooks which we will be using inside our app. Okay, and using this app, so rendering means if there is any changes made in this state. State means like any kind of the whatever the value they are holding, if it is changed. For example, like if I were to say, if I were to change, instead of Honda, if I wish to write BMW here, let's say BMW here. So what will happen is it is changing. So now car dot make will give us the value BMW, but the state of car dot make is changed, right? So we won't what happens is if use effect and use effect and use state are used such that the React components is rendered on its own every single time. Basically rendering means it is reloaded every single time. That's all there is to it. You don't have to be confused with it. And so I'll try to explain use state and use effect here itself. So what this is doing is it is going to for example, use state is something like whenever, for example, we have a variable count here. So whenever the value of count changes, this whole page starting from here, import to everything, will be executed all at once. Okay, so when the value of count changes, how the value of count changes, we are going to use set count for that. And what set count is going to do is, how do we take, so we have a button, on click of this button, on the click of this button, set count will change the value to count plus 1. Basically it will add one value to this. So as soon as we click on this button, it will automatically add. This is simply an add function. So this will change the set count and the value of count will be changed. That's what is the meaning of rendering. So as soon as the value of this state changes, like count suppose had earlier value 0, which is, this is the initialization, whatever is the initial value is given here. So it is 0 and the count value earlier was 0. Now as soon as I clicked on this button, what happened was the value of count changed. Okay, so the value of count is now, as soon as I clicked, so earlier count value was 0, so 0 plus 1, it became 1. Now the value of count is changed. So when the count value has changed, this whole app will reload again. Rendering, re-render means basically load again. So everything inside this will be executed completely. So that's what is going to happen. That is what is use state. And what is use effect is, use effect, the problem with use state was that every single time this thing changed, use count changed every single time. Basically every time the value of count changed, because of the set count, it will start the reload of every single page. So this is problematic. We don't want every single function to reload every single time. Okay, but we want the functions to load certain parts of the program. We want to only load when we want. So that's where the use effects comes into place. So what does use effect do? Inside this array, basically inside this array, they have given when do you want to upload it, like when do you want to change this, when do you want this whole page to re-render, like when do you want the function inside this to re-render again. Okay, when do you want to enter this? So when the value of count changes, I want, so for example here we have use and count and we are using count to exchange. For example, we have three more use states, like one is count, one is total, one is something like that. So we only want when the value of count changes to log out the value of count. Okay, so count is now 1 at the moment when we change by clicking on this. So we want only when this value of count changes to execute whatever the code is inside this. So that's why use effect is used. So the problem with use state was every single time you change, it will change the whole page and it will reload the whole page. But use effects doesn't doesn't execute every single time the page loads. Use effect only executes when there is a change, whatever is given inside this array, whatever the value is inside this array, only then will the use effect change. And so that's what is use effect, and that's what we have used. So I have taught you very basics of objects, basics of use state and use effect. So if you see, this is like in the JavaScript we have used this object, and the object is basically like the name. This is the name of the object. Okay, this is the name of the object. His left side is first name. All these are keys. Okay, last name, the address, and the hobbies. Okay, so we have 4 left side input which give us something. So what we are going to do is, the for destructuring, what we are going to do is we are going to give everything value. On the right side we have nested objects, which is basically this whole object we have. This is what we are going to do in the data file. Okay, data.json. So this whole object is on the right side, and its value can be fetched by having objects on the left side where we give them the key values. Okay, whichever key value we want from this object, this whole object. Just don't imagine this here, just imagine there is this whole object here. How do you take its first key value? Key value means the value which you put in to get the value. Okay, to get the value of the left right hand side, which is the value. How can you put the key so you get the different values? Okay, so what we are going to do is, here we took the first name, which is like this key, then we took the last name, which is this key, and this is what we are going to do. So for example, in address, forget about these two, this is just, I don't think so that we need this right now. Just understand from the first two, like you can use this semicolons like this, and you can directly from this objects, you can directly from this object take these two values. This is the whole WAGMI. WAGMI is all about this. You have to take these structures, and that's how you will be able to make it. Okay, so now we are back on the remix ID. So now we are back on the remix ID, and we are going to just click on this button, and what we are going to do is you'll see this option where you compile, right? You'll get this ABI. So this ABI is very important, and this ABI has all these functions, whatever the code which we have. So we are going to copy this ABI, and once you have installed the app, okay, so once you have set up the Rainbow Kit, right, what you are going to do is we are going to create a new file which will be named data.json. So what this data.json is, it is going to have this, we copied from here, and then we went to this data.json file and we pasted this, right? So this is our ABI, this is our whole ABI, and we'll just control, like, we'll save this data file here, and what we are going to do is so it is just the short form of it. We are going to make this whole thing as an object. So what we are going to do is we are going to make this whole thing as an object, and just we are going to name it ABI, right? Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to name this as ABI. Okay, and just like any object, we are going to pass this whole value. You see whatever we copied, right? We are just going to copy this and we are going to paste it inside this. Okay, now this whole thing is an object, and whenever in this object we will fetch the ABI. We have already discussed how objects are. So as soon as we have fetched this ABI, we are going to give this ABI inside our file. So we are going to name it import, and we are getting this ABI, let's call this uh, contract ABI. So for ease, AB contract ABI from, we are going to import this from it contract ABI, and we are going to call it from the data.json file. Okay, so we are going to import this now. So everything from that data is going to come to us. Now next we are going to import all the three things, which are basically it's the three things, but due to Wagmi they have made it like these are four things. So what we are going, we just save this file. So what we are going to do is we are going to go to what we are going to do is now we are going to go to Wagmi now, and let's click on this, and from Wagmi there are like we have talked about the process of how we are making changes to the blockchain, right? So we go to React, and then we go to hooks, and these are all the hooks. Hooks are basically the functions, and the three most important hooks are you need to read data, so which is this hook. You know, from blockchain, if you are interacting, what you can do, you can read from it, you can write to it, like we have seen in the contract here. Okay, you see that we can read from it, we can write from it, and once we write we have to wait for the contract. So these are the three different things. So we are going to wait for the transaction to happen. Okay, so these are the three important hooks basically. So what we are going to do is we are going to import all these hooks, right? So I'll just copy this, and we are going to import all these hooks, right? So let me just copy this hook. So here I have copied all these four functions. Okay, so this is the first, we will read, then we'll write to the contract. This is the write, then we'll prepare is like something I'll explain you, but these are the basically the four which once we are going to use. We are going to read from the contract, we are going to write a function from the contract, we are going to use, and we will wait for the transaction. So these 3-4 functions we are going to read, and the last is like, obviously if you are making React, so you'll need to have these two libraries. So one is the use effect and the use state, which I have kind of basically explained below. So I'm going to paste something, do not be scared of this, and this is just, it is nothing but let me go to the Wagmi, okay, and let me explain what we explained in the video below before. So we are going to this, I know you won't understand this, it might be very complex for you, but what are hooks? You need to understand this. What are hooks? Hooks are basically functions with a defined input. So what, as soon as you enter that function, its result is an object. That's what Wagmi is all about. Okay, it's everything is objects. You see this, right? There's an object and there is a result. There's an object key value, and this is the value, and there is this key value pair. You have a key who's loading, and they'll give you a boolean or something like that. Okay, so continuous, everywhere Wagmi you go to any function, their return value is in this objects form, where if you type in this side, left side, which is the key, and you'll get directly value of this. So these are objects actually, all the single things. So if you go back to what I copied here, so if you see it like this, this is nothing but it's just a function, right? If I just kind of, let me just show you here. So it is just a function. So the function has an input value, which is again an object. So this is what this is, right? So object has three different things, and this is this use contract hooks are basically functions, and they have a predefined input. So here in this case it has objects. For example, if we go to our remix ID, this is a function which takes in this number, right? So it is taking this input, and it will always take only this input, right? So hooks are also a function which always have a predefined kind of input. So for example, they will give this value to us, they are going to give this value to us, but what they are going to take in as input, right? They are going to always take in an input which is an object. If you see till here, see, use contract read this function, and inside this function there is an object, and this their input is in the form of object, and their output is also in the form of objects. You're trying to understand, right, what is happening here. So if you try to understand, this is data destructuring. I'll get back to you on this. Okay, how we got this data is this thing, right? This is the data. So as soon as I use this function, basically what is happening is, as soon as I put an input to this function, which is these three things, as soon as I put inside this function, they are going to give me an object. The how we assign value, right? We put every, for example, a equal to 10, and I'll explain. A equal to let's say a equal to 10. Okay, now I want the value of a equal to let's say a and plus and 10 again. Now what's the value of a right now? So the value of a is basically 20. So what is happening is right side of the equation solves first, and then it give its value to the left side. Okay, so a is 10, so this 10 will come here and this 20 will go to this, right? So first right side of the equation is solved, and then it will go to the left side. So this is what is happening here. If you see this, first you are using this hook. Okay, this is a function, you are giving this function. So first this will be solved. As soon as you give this input to that function, what is going to happen is this function will automatically solve and it will give you this object. Now I have explained you destructuring. Now out of all these objects, what are the values which we want to take out? So that is this const. Okay, that is this const. So I want all, like, first the right side of the equation is solved, then I want data from this, and I want is loading. So if is loading or not, if this data is, it can be true, it can be false, it can be yes or no. Basically boolean means it's a yes or a no question. So is, for example, did I fetch the data? So is success means yes, you fetched the data already, or is success is false means you haven't fetched the data, means you haven't gotten the data back from the blockchain. So I think you understand this, what is happening. This is a function. In short, I'll say this is a function which is taking in objects as an input. So inputs will be always defined. For a function, inputs are always defined, right? We will always have only one input here. Similarly, we'll always have three inputs here. Like we can add later on, but basically how it is designed, it is taking input in the form of objects. And once left side, I have told you, like, see, this is going to solve. First the right side solves and it puts the value in the left side. Okay, so this is what is happening. It is going to solve this and it is going to return this. So this value will be inside this. Like if you name it to a const, then this whole value will go inside it, but we only want specific from it. So they are using object as an input, and output is also an object, and from that whole object I want only 2 or 3 functionalities, right? I'm not going to need every single of them. So that's why they have, that's what WAGMI hooks are doing. So I think that's, so this is the read one and there is this write one. So I know you might not understand this, but for let's go for write. What it is doing is, it is already just like the read, it is going to have 3 inputs and it is taking config value from them. Okay, write prepare is the different hook. If I go to prepare hooks, it has to be used with write. Okay, so how it has to be used with write is, how it has to be used with write is, whatever is passed inside this, only that value will go to the write hook. Okay, so basically it is preparing the contract to write. So everything for preparing something, for example, if you're trying to prepare anything, for trying to prepare something, you have to already have those values ready, right? So for before writing, I need to have all these values ready, and I'll call this value as config. Okay, I'll call this value as config, and then I'm going to pass in this config. See, this is also a function. Use write is a function which is taking in config. What is config? Config is again a certain outputs of this function. Understand? Config is again certain outputs of this function, and that is what we are going to use into contract write. So so contract write is this, and I'll copy back in my code right now, but I think you need to understand what is happening here. So use prepare is I need to use write only. So I can do it like I want to use write, but basically this is a function within a function. So this is a function which takes in a function which is this. So that's why we are preparing before writing it. We are actually preparing. We need to do this. You don't need to understand the technicality. So this is what is happening. Okay, this is this prepare contract write is again taking inputs which are these, and they are take and out of as soon as you put this value, this whole thing will give you a config, and that config will come inside here. Okay, once we fetch this value from this function, then we are trying to give it to another function, something like that. Okay, and as soon as this happens, so now this is again like either you can write config, or if you don't want to write config, you just write this whole value inside this function, and it will be like it'll give you a bunch of a lot of things. Just don't think about it, just use config, it will be easy for you to understand. So now I'm using this so as soon as I write this function, so what does this function give us? This functions again gives me an object. So you're trying to see, right, what is happening. It is giving me data, is error, and different functions it is going to give me. And as soon as as soon as the right side of the equation is solved, just like here, as soon as the right side is solved, I want only certain data. Since they are in a form of object, it is very easy for me, right? So this is where data destructuring comes, and I want only specific data out of the whole object. I don't want everything else from this object, right? I don't want everything from this object. This is an object, right? I don't want everything from this object. I want only data is loading, is success or not. Like, I mean, if I am writing to a contract, basically if I'm making changes to a contract, is it successful, is it loading? This, just imagine, don't see it as boolean, it's either true or it is false. So if it is success, it will give you yes. If it is not, it will give you no. Okay, so it's successful or not. So this is what is contract write. And then what is there is like, this is use contract for transaction. So we are going to see this again. Let me, I think I'll explain you a bit complex here. So I'll explain you this transaction one directly on the app. Okay, let me just go back there, and since I'll just show you, okay, what is happening inside the app. So this transaction prepare also give us hooks. So hooks is basically it also so right side, as soon as the right side is solved, it will give us an object, and I can ask for any single value from this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'll go back to my app and I'll paste all these three functions. Okay, just whatever I have just told you, I'm going to paste this, and I'll just get back to you again, giving it to the I'll just remove the read one. I think I copied it twice. So one is read function. First we are reading from the blockchain. Then I want to write, but in order to write, I have to prepare the writing first. So that is the use prepare contract write. So I prepare this, and now I wait for this transaction. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this transaction. Let me just now one thing you'll notice is this like every single function in WAGMI returns data, right? If you see that use wait for transaction returns data, I'm waiting for the transaction, its name is data. Okay, once you read this, what is its return value? This is also like from the read contract, this is also data. When you're writing, this is also data. So it is going to create confusion for us, right? Now when this is going to create confusion for us, what we are going to do is we are going to rename this. And how do you rename? All you need to do is just write in the form of objects and rename it. So all these data, so if you see that all these hooks gives us data, so we cannot use data. That's why it was showing us error, because all three were named same, and it was very confusing for the system, right? Forget about this. I'll talk about this. I'll explain it when I come here. So how do I name this data, rename this data? So for ease of use, what I'll do is I'll simply copy this. It's very, I mean who likes naming, right? So I'll just do this. I'll use its name, and whatever this functionality is, I'll just write it again. So this is what I'm going to go with. So see, now the error is gone, right? But still two datas are similar. So in this case also, what I'll do, I'll just copy this, whatever the function's name is, and I'll just give this semicolon, and I'll paste this, and whatever this name is, data. So I'll write here, for example, data, and then again I'll do for this. So I see now there is no other variable as data, so I can directly use data as well, but for ease, I'm going to just copy this and again write data for this. For example, if I take another function here, for example, let's say is success. So since I'm using only for once, it won't show an error, but if you want to rename it as well, you can rename as many as you want. So just I'll copy this, I'll paste it here, and I'll use this name, whatever this name is, I'll just use it here. Okay, so I'll like for the ease, you can name anything you want, but just to remember whose function it is and what is the function. So I'll just remove it, I'm not going to use it, but you're understanding, right, what I'm going to do. So so for the next part, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to display all this data in our console. So when we are on the website, we are going to display all our data inside the console. So we are going to use use effect for this. I'm going to show you the demo, but it won't work on your app right now, so don't be bothered. Okay, just follow along. Like in the last, when all the code is done, once you copy paste this code and you have installed the Rainbow the way I have already told inside the video, my like in the I button video, then I think everything will work. But just do not panic, and just I'm going to console log every single data which we got. So we have read data, and we have write data, and we have transaction data right now. Okay, so I'll just go to the website, and I'll show you what is going to happen. So I'm going to write the number 400, for example. This is our previous number 40. Now as soon as I click on change number, you see that I am going to write to this on the blockchain. Okay, so let me just I'm not going to confirm right now. What is happening is, you see this data, right? We have a user read data, we have use contract write data, which is undefined because we haven't written right now. Did I write to the contract? No. Only when I write will I wait for the contract, right? As soon as I write to the contract, then only I'll wait for I haven't even started. So these two data, undefined means like it doesn't exist basically. So I'm going to write now. See, as soon as I click on confirm, it will give me whatever data it is. So I'm going to click on confirm now. So I clicked, and you see it has write, but this is undefined still. We are waiting for the transaction. This does not execute. Okay, so you see, right, what happened here? First we have use read data, but these two are undefined. Then we, as soon as we write, we got the second data. While writing means making changes, but the third data was not present. But as soon as we write and we waited for the see, user wait for the transaction. User is basically waiting. Use or user is waiting for this transaction. So the transaction is still not success. As soon as it's success, so see, it is still not success, and in the third one it's success. So we get three different objects. If you see, these are objects only. If you see, this is an object, this is an object. So we were looking at this, right? We have this data, this thing as objects. So whenever we are trying to get anything from this data, it is in the form of objects. So we are taking inputs in the form of objects, which is this. These are objects in this function use prepare write. We are taking input as objects, and it will give us output as objects only. So it is easier to fetch data. So these are objects, all are objects. So you cannot do this in your app right now. Let me just go through the rest of the part, giving input and all those things. But you're understanding, right, what we are trying to do here? In this, we are console, just for separation, we are added this at top and bottom, so we know what is happening. So all three datas, whenever use effect will change once any of these values changes. So either use write changes or so that's why when we you saw, right, as soon as I, for first use data, as soon as I write to the contract, the value of right changed, so it again displayed. That's why. So yeah, I mean it's complex to understand, but just remember any single of this value changes inside this one or this one or this one, any one of these changes, and this whole thing inside this will run. So anything, so it'll log on all three of this. So this is the use effect use, and I think we'll need to add a use state now. So I'll just go ahead and copy this and show you. Now next we are going to fetch is write function, because while writing we don't want data, we want to also know what we are going to write. So like clicking on the button and those things. And from in the use wait for transaction, so we are waiting for transaction, so we want the transaction to be success. Once the transaction is success, it will give us the value. Okay, as soon as the transaction is success, so we will take in is success here. So let me just copy paste and show you. Okay, so here I am taking the right value. If you we from this config we are taking the right value. Okay, right means when you want the button to write something, when you want a button, and they have given this on their own. Okay, I don't need to understand, you don't need to understand, but for writing you'll need a button, right? As soon as I click the button, the write function should execute. So for this function to execute, just copy this button. You don't have to, but make sure whatever name you are giving it, you have to name the same here. For example, they have written here data, and they are saying this is data, but you cannot write it data because you have changed the name of your data. So for example, you have named your data use contract read. So when you're writing it below, you'll need to use, instead of data, you'll need to use contract. Now this data is renamed to this thing, so you'll have to use this instead of the original which they have showed in the document. So they have showed right here, which is correct. And for data they have shown data here, but you don't need to do this data, since you have put a semicolon and named it to suppose use write contract, use contract write data. So you have to write the renamed name here. Okay, not this one, since you have continuous datas and all those things, for every single value you have this data. So just to avoid, see, first we did read. Okay, first we did read from the contract. Now we are going to write or make changes to the contract. For that, inside the write we'll need to use this. Okay, we have to use this inside a button. In order to execute this function inside a button, they have already given how to execute, so all you need to do is just take this value and just go back and paste it. Sorry, just so now we are going to use the use state, and this is nothing but, as soon as you change this is a function, actually it's a function. So as soon as you change this function, its value directly comes within number, and this whole page is rendered. So you need to see, just go back to the video if you have any confusion, use it and watch that. I have defined it like within 1 or 2 minutes what is happening. So we have changed this number, and what we are going to do is we are going to take an input which is going to use this. You have to just write as it is. So what this will do is, whatever you are writing inside the box, input box, it will be of a type number, you cannot write others. So if it's a type of number, it is directly going to print this value. So if you see this, whatever I'm writing inside this, okay, so this thing will be stored inside the number, whatever that number. As soon as I make changes, this simply means this thing, this whole thing, this on change, which means like literally on change. So anything which I put inside this set number function will directly be stored inside number. And why what will happen is, as soon as it is stored inside the number, while writing the contract, I want to give an input as well, right? I have taken an input. Now I want to change the number. Okay, now I have taken the input, but I need to pass the input in the write function itself. So while writing, I'm changing the number while writing, right? So I need to use this. So guys, I am back here. So I just pasted this argument from the number. This is actually given in the docs. I know it might be hard to understand, but for writing they have given inside the docs if you want to have a function argument. So if you want to, so how you are how to pass the argument. So basically use write contract, earlier we discussed that the object can be of only three values, this is the first and the main one. Okay, so we first earlier thought that object can have only three inputs, but object can have multiple inputs according to their particular documentation. So their documentation says that instead of three, let I want, remove this, not this one, but you can have another input in this object itself. In this object, within this function use contract write, you can also pass in arguments. So what will be the argument? The argument will be this number which we are trying to save in the use state. Okay, this number, right? This number will be our argument. So when I write, when I say I want to make changes to the blockchain, so what I want to make the changes to, I want this number, whatever we have. And how this number is changing? This number is changing by how we are putting the value. So as soon as you put the value, anything inside this set number function changes the value of this number, and this number is directly given to this. So it will be given multiple, like I don't want to confuse you. So this it will be given, actually it will be given multiple times, but when we write only, then will it execute. So as soon as this number is changed, it will give this input to this arguments. We have already seen there in documentation that this has to be inside an array. They have told we don't need to make any changes inside it. Whatever we want we can write. So as soon as you give this input, basically whatever you write inside this input box, it will directly change the value of number, and this number we are passing to write contract, because we are writing it, right? We are making changes to the blockchain. So what changes we want? We want our number to make changes to the blockchain. We want our number to be displayed. So we are going to pass in this number. And what is this number? This argument use contract write is the same argument which is in our Solidity. So let me show you this Solidity. This is the new number. This is where it is coming from. Okay, we are passing this. Basically we are using the contract write, but write function has this one. I told you, right? We have to write here. So we are using this write function. That's why we are inputting an argument, because this function also takes an argument. That's how they are connected. So in the front end, I cannot use the get number, and because it doesn't have any arguments, right? The ones which have argument, I'm passing while writing only. So I'm writing to the blockchain. I told you, right, in the start of the video that this is the read and this is the write, which means we have also seen it here. This is the write. Change number is the write function. So that's why while using this button, we are writing on that spot. So we are, as soon as, basically what is happening is, as soon as I click this button, it is going to execute this function, because we have named this function to be executed, where this is, we have named it, right? Change number. We are actually using this function while writing, like, so that's what the input is. We have, so whatever we are giving to this prepare contract is from Solidity's function name, and its argument we are giving here itself. So we took this argument for this input box, we gave it to use state, and it is here now. Let me just so let me just define this as well. So let me just define this contract ABI. So we copied this object, right? Contract ABI we have from data.json. We named this whole object as contract ABI, right? We named that whole object as contract ABI. So we need the address of this. So how do you pass the address here? So how do you pass the address here? Okay, so this is the address which you pass. So once you go to this, you have this contract, right? It is already deployed. So this is the contract. So you copy this contract address, and this is what you paste inside the, that contract is what you paste inside this. Okay, you'll paste it here, that contract, and then you'll give this ABI. So what is this ABI actually? So you copied this object, right? So I'll Control C and I'll just paste it here. Okay, so what this contract ABI gets us this object which is data.json, but I don't want this object. I named it such that I want this array. This is our actual answer. We gave it a name for easiness, for our easiness, right? So from this ABI, this is our original ABI actually. Whatever behind this is our actual ABI. That is an object. This yellow thing, this is an object. So I want from this whole thing, the data.json, I named contract ABI, and now contract ABI is an object, but from that object I want a value. So that value is ABI. So what value I want? From this whole object I want the ABI, like which I named. So this is what I'm going to write here. Okay. And this is the function name. So I think I have to change for this one also. So I'll just copy this contract ABI for this everything, you know, we have to do this. And address, what we are going to do is address is the same address as what we deployed here. So I'm going to copy this contract address and I'm going to paste this contract address here. I copied that, and now now I'm going to paste this contract address here. That is the contract address which you'll paste here. Okay. So you have gotten the argument, you have everything. So I'll just tell you about transaction now. So I think we are done with the write function. Now we have to go to the transaction. So that's how our transactions were happening, right? First we were reading, then we are writing, let's say 12. I click on change, we are writing. Now we are done with writing. Okay, we have given it the input it wants, and whatever the function was in our Solidity, that's what we named in our WAGMI, right? Whatever the function's name, the function's name was change number and it was taking an input. So that's what we named here. The function name is change number and it is taking an input. In read, see, I have to change this name as well. I have to give this name in the read. What we are trying to read, we are trying to read this get number. Okay, we are trying to read this get number function. So I have to name this here as get number. Okay, so instead of get hunger, I'll just name it number. Sorry, get number. So I'll just name this is get number. In reading we don't have any input, that's why we are not parsing. You can usually pass argument from, like I can just write 6 here and it will be valid. I can write 6 here, but what would happen is I want the user to input, not me. I can input it directly here. I can directly pass the argument 6, 7, 8, whatever I want, but I'm just asking the input user using useState to put this input for us. Now we are done with read, we are done with write. Now we need to wait for the use prepare wait for transaction. Now that I have written to the blockchain, let me just give it 100. As soon as I click write, and as soon as I click write, and it is waiting for a transaction, right? It is waiting for a transaction. See, use wait for transaction. So it is waiting for a transaction. As soon as it is successful, we got the value. Again, objects, if you see, this is an object with different to from contract address. This is an object. So this is the object which we got. So basically our transaction is confirmed and then it is showing. So what is happening here is for this use transaction we have a hash here, so we have to use this hash. Okay, it is showing that use contract write. What is this use contract write? Where did we get it from? Every single time the page loads, this is the use contract write read data, this is the write data. So this is exactly the write data. Next is the use wait for transaction data, which is coming from this inside this use effect. So now we are waiting for this. So how we'll get this data of use transaction? So actually what happens is, in the write data, when we are actually signing our transaction, we are clicking on the this thing, we are clicking here, this thing. As soon as we are writing the transaction, it will generate us an hash. As soon as we write, it will generate us an hash. I'll reject it here for, you know. So as soon as we are writing the transaction, it gives us a hash. So from the data of write, so if you see, this is the use contract write data, right? This thing. So if so if you see that inside the write data, we have a hash function. So in order for this transaction to happen, we have to, in order to get the data of use transaction data, we have to use the hash of write, because see, first we read from the blockchain, then we are writing. But as soon as we write, we'll get a data of write, and it has a hash function. So if you see this, it's complex, I don't want to open, just see in the form of object. So it has this hash function, right? So this has this hash function, right? It's an object. Too big. So yeah, this is an this is hash, right? This is in the form of objects. So I want this hash function. So this is what I'm trying to do. In order to get the data, use transaction data, I am using the hash from write data. So if this question mark basically means if this is true, like if you have already fetched the value of data, then from that data use the hash and you'll get the my hash. Basically that's what the meaning of this object is. This object has hash, and where will it get its value. So we are taking the right data and we are saying question mark means if this thing is true, if use contract write data has already been proven, like the outcome has come. Basically first it is waiting, right? The outcome, as soon as the outcome has come, then give me the data hash of this. I'll take this hash and I'll give the data. So guys, for next part of the video, we are going to use write function inside the contract write. I think we have already completed this, but you know, we have added the button. We have to use the use contract prepare hook. Okay, so we'll just add this button. That's all we are going to do. And we are not going to use is success of use contract write, because what would we do? Like we have already written, we know we will use the use is success of use wait for transaction. So is success means as soon as the transaction, which is like this one, use wait for transaction. So what is going to happen is if success is not here, but if is success of use wait for transaction. So as soon as we put this hash, it will give us this value. So if we'll get the is success boolean, basically boolean in the sense if is success is true, like means if the use wait for transaction means I am waiting for a transaction and it is success, means the transaction is success, only then display the value which I made the changes to. So let me get what I'm trying to say here. So this is the is success, and this is the two things which I wrote. I want to write using that button, which I'll create the button right now, and I'll write the success one. So display that number like whenever it's a success. So let me just get that. So I've gotten this value. This is what I copied, and this is the write function which we were given in the WAGMI documents itself. Okay, I know you might not understand the documentation, don't worry about it, even I didn't understand, but they are giving a button, like they are giving you a function and they are saying this is how you are going to import a button. If you want to use this write object, use this button. This is how you need to do. You don't need to understand it, they have given it themselves. And this is what I did. I just copy pasted this, and I just copy pasted whatever they have given. I don't need to understand it. And is success, so is success is we have imported the is success for waiting for transaction. So when the transaction is complete, only display this data. So what is this data? This is our number which we want to fetch. Okay, this is our number. So only give this when our transaction is success. So I'll just show you. Okay, I'll just take you to the website, and this is our data, but if you see, this is given in the form of big number. Okay, this object is given in the form of big number. So if you Google how to get the number from big number, okay, how to convert the data of big number to a number, so what you need to do is, all you need to do is give this. So if I write my see, so this use contract data, which is actually a number, it's a big number, it's a form of big number, and I haven't gotten the other two data. I only want this data to be displayed as something which is readable to me. Okay, so if I Google, just go on Google and write how to convert big number to a integer, so it will give you a function which is like this. So all you need to do is write just to number, and this is a function. Okay, it is, if you see, this is also an object. So once you understand objects, so you'll understand WAGMI. That's all there is to it. And I believe that totally everything is object. So once you understand, so you don't need to know what is happening. So I control S. So this user data, which was earlier in the form of this, so let me just confirm, I have saved there. Okay, this user data which was in the form of big number, now when my transaction completes, it is going to give me the data in the form of number. Okay, so you see that we are getting this value as whatever the integer, like it is already converting. So if usually if I paste this data, if you see, if I paste this data, only this part, not the two number part. Okay, if I paste this data, it is actually an object, but when we are converting it to number, it is directly showing us this number, which is like 103. If you want to change your number here, for example, let me just, so if you want your data to come like this, okay, if you want this big number to directly come here, so where have we used this big number? So we need to copy two number there also. So for example, I'll just copy this two number function, control C, and this is the data, right? This is the use contract read data. So if I paste this, now when in console log also, I'll see it as a number. Okay, so let me just show you, let me just write again, let me change this number to 400, let's say. So as soon as I click change number, and as soon as I confirm the transaction, now it will come in the form, I'm writing the number as 4000. So as soon as I click on this and I write the function and I confirm the transaction, it is going to show me the number 400. How it is showing me the number 400? It is showing me the number 400 because I have made in the console.log itself to change this. Okay, this thing I have actually I've actually done this here. So I've done this here itself. Okay, these are basically two parallel functions, that's all. Now these two codes are same basically. So this is what I've done, and this is the two number is being displayed right now. So I'll just this is the live server of two things. So now you see this data, right? You, instead of seeing this in the form of an object, which was a big number earlier, you can directly see this in the form of as a readable data. And this is to worry about that, just giving it a 1 million number, since I think everyone wants Ethereum to reach 1 million. So I'll just change the number, and as soon as I change, so as soon as data got changed, use effect got executed, it gave me this 4000, but these two haven't been executed. I click here, I'll execute it. So as soon as I clicked, even write function got executed, and from its hash, from the write function's hash was given to user transaction. If you see this here, this write function's hash, the write function's hash, which is the data, in the data itself they have a hash. This hash was given to use transaction wait, and it was waiting. As soon as it was waiting, it gave it another object, and our number is displayed. We took this value basically, which was the data which was later on. We took this value and we converted it to a number. So if I were to remove this now, let me remove this. So if I remove this now, what is going to happen is it is going to give you a data. Inside the console it will give you, see, it is showing error. Why it is showing error is because what is happening is, if I remove from here, this whole thing is an object. I cannot use an object here, right? Inside the div, objects cannot be used. A number can be displayed, so I cannot remove it from here. Okay, so I cannot remove it from here. So all I can do is I can remove from here, because console can log anything, but on display, like on website, you cannot display objects. You can display their values. So now that you see this, now if you see, uh, now it is back to our thing again. But if we change the number here, you'll get the number here. But you, on the console, basically you change it on the console, right? Where is the console? Yeah, so in the console you haven't changed it, you let it in be in the form of objects, but while displaying it, return means everything is rendered again. So in this, inside the div, you cannot run an object, you have to make it in the form of number. So we are using to number, and that is what is being converted here. So here it is in the form of object, but here we are converting the value to number. So whatever this object is, basically big and true, it is being converted to a number 245 here. That's how it is going to show. And I think our app is done. And I plan to give a GitHub repo later on, but I still need to research a lot of things. And the video is complete. I know if there is some kind of error you are facing, just copy paste the whole code as it is. I'll just give you the, yeah, I'll write a Hashnote blog and I'll give you the exact code, okay, in which file, what is the code, and later on I'll upload to GitHub, so it'll be easier for you to copy, you know. But first you need to do the Rainbow Kit. I have given you the video of Rainbow Kit. You need to install the Connect Wallet button in that way, so you won't need to install anything extra. All you need to do is, you know, just copy this whole index file inside that. I'll give you in the Hashnote blog directly, and copy this all data.json like this, or copy like on app.js what was there, copy this whole thing what was there on app.js we never really changed, I think it is the same as the thing. But this data.json you need to change, okay. Whatever contract you have deployed on, okay, whatever contract you have deployed on this Ethereum, you have to get the ABI from here itself. So that is one thing, you have to get the ABI from here, and you have to get the, after you click on deploy, you know, after you click on deploy, you'll get the contract, and you'll get the contract address which you'll be pasting inside your app here. So you need to take care of these things only. You'll need to change the addresses, and I'll give you exactly the contract address which will be a working website, so you can experiment and check, but you can later on change the functions and everything. So I'll give you the Solidity code and all those things on the Hashnote blog, and I plan to give it on the GitHub repo as well. So thanks guys. I think it was a very long video, and my voice is also kind of getting harsh while speaking, so I'll end this video. And guys, it took me at least 10 days because my use state wasn't like up to the mark, my use effect knowledge was not up to the mark, and my objects knowledge, even though I had studied objects, but what were the hooks, everything, like I literally learned everything from scratch. So if you have any doubt in this video, I don't think that you'll need to go to any other video or anything else. I have given objects, use effect, use state, whatever you need to understand this video within this video itself. So it took me a lot of effort, and I would say like it was worth it, man. For 10 days, I mean, it was worth it. It took me a time, but I searched everything on my own. And so that's it from my side, and Rahul signing up, and that's all for today. See you in the next video. Also guys, inside the use contract read function, you have to give one more input, which is watch colon true. Also, sorry for using semicolon everywhere, it's actually colon. So what this does is, every single time the transaction happens on a new block, so it takes note of that new block and displays it again. Inside the app folder, you need to paste Polygon Mumbai in these two places. Watch. Also guys, inside the use contract read function, you have to give one more input, which is watch colon true. Also sorry for using semicolon everywhere, it's actually colon. So what this does is every single time the transaction happens on a new block, so it takes note of that new block and displays it again.